Alright, we are now live. Hello everyone, and welcome to today's live stream, where I'm going to be trying to make this sword transformation effect from the amazing film K-Pop Demon Hunters. If you haven't watched it already, you really should. It's made by Sony Imageworks, the same people who made Spider-Verse. It's amazing, go watch it. But yeah, so I want to go and try to recreate this effect, and there are a couple of ways that I may attempt it. So in the film, I saw people online, all the people who worked on the film have been posting about it, and it's been amazing seeing behind the scenes. But for this effect, what they did was they started with 2D hand-drawn animation, and then they converted it to 3D. I'm assuming they took the sketches, traced them with splines, and then they did 3D effects, which I'm assuming they just, had ribbons on the splines, textured them, and then also had the particles to do all that stuff. So I'm considering doing that, which I could just use Blender's grease pencil tool to go and do the 2D animation and then do that. Or I could try making it fully procedural so that I can make it work on several different objects, which I think I'll do the procedural way first, and then maybe the manual way second, because once I get the shaders and all that set up, I can just transfer it to the 2D animation side and it'll work out perfectly. So that's what I'm going to attempt. And also we can see right here that the sword itself, like the actual mesh, just seems to alpha in, apparently. So it's mainly just all the ribbons going everywhere. We can see the scribbles and all that, which is very well done. But then it just forms the general sword shape, shrinks down, which in this case, I think we could see, yeah, we could just see those scribbles. It's just do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. And then the actual sword arrives. So, it's a cool effect. Let's go and try it. So I guess what I can do first is just make a very, very basic sword-ish shaped mesh. So let's make this maybe 0.1 meters. We'll go and do that. I'll try to make it vaguely like the sword in the movie. Very, very vaguely. This, scale that in. Just needs to look somewhat, a little bit like a sword. But there, we can do that, and let's set that to be 0.5. Scale that to be 0.5. Do we make the hilt a little bit better? I don't want to spend too much time on this, because very little. Oh yeah, I think that's good enough. Maybe just lean that part forward a little bit more. Come on, there we go. Yeah, there we go. We have our very, very detailed sword. Let's go and apply all the transforms. So now it's time for the actual geonodes part. So what I'm thinking about, number one, do I make this all one object so that I can just move one slider and then I'll affect the alpha on the sword and all the other particle effects? Because I could do everything inside one modifier, one geonodes modifier, and that could work. Or I could just use Bezier. Let me check the OBS sound and all that. Okay, all that seems to be good. Let's go back over to here. Oh, and another funny little thing, you're like, oh wait, how's he playing images in the viewport? Well, I just took the frames from this and then made it into a very long image, and then I'm just treating it like a flipbook. I'm just going up by one every 4 frames. Now, the movie is 24 frames per second, but for the most part, the characters are animated on 2, so 12 frames per second. But the camera is usually 24. Now, it does switch occasionally, but it's cool to see how they are keeping that from Spider-Verse and all that, even though this one is a lot less comic-y, I guess? But yeah. So here with the spline, what I imagine what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make the, oh, I can't see the sword with all that. I'm just going to make this go from like here to here and then one for the hilt, because we can see if we go and rewind right about here, the parts get summoned, but we can see the main part is the main length of the sword and then the hilt, and then those do the nice little ribbon thing. Let's see. You can put a GIF as a reference. Yes, but GIFs are... I wonder what's more compression efficient, GIFs or what, a flipbook? I would think they're about the same, because GIFs don't really have great, compression. So here, this should be a loop. Or do I try to do that? Yeah, let's go and make that an actual cyclic loop. So by R, not E. Let's go and rotate it by 90 degrees, and we'll rotate this one, Rx by 90, and then we can just go and... There we go. We can make that cyclic and then scale that down. And the main part of the sword, I think we can try to make cyclic, but I think it'll probably be fine. We can always go and add that in later. Okay. So now it's time. Let's go and duplicate elements so that we can duplicate all of the splines, so that we can just have a ton of them and apply some noise. So let's try this in the most simple way possible, and then we'll make it a bit more complex as time goes on. So the most simple way to do this is we'll just use a noise texture, 3D, nothing too fancy. Oh, no, we need to get the... put that in there. We want to offset it by the duplicate index, which I should store as a named attribute, but for now I'm just going to leave it be. We'll just do this, have that there and there, and then we'll turn off normalization, scale this, and plug it into there. So we can... Oh, I know what's going wrong. I need to go and resample the curve and make it... Yeah, we'll just use a count, and then we can do that. So here we can see there's way too much noise. Way too much. Not happy with that. We could do that, and then it's like, oh yeah, we're kind of getting there. Just the general, like, oh, things are looking very varied. Then all that happens. So we get a nice general vibe with that. So we can make it a bit more like that. When we scale it down, it turns like... This is like the end frame of the animation. That's what I'm going for. Then when it goes up, it can do that, but I'm not too happy with that. Maybe I can make it so that scales down as it gets larger. But as we can also see, not too happy with the scale doing all of that. And I'm using noise instead of sine waves, because that might not be... I don't know. Maybe I should just do it all sine-based. No, this is fine. Let's make this offset by a random value. Float, plug that into the ID. We'll set this to something like maybe 100. How does that work? Scale will affect that, which means that we can't affect the scale in post. Unless, I just, scaled it beforehand and we don't need to worry about that. So here it'll just do that. We can see that all that's pretty good. So we can scale this over time, which may be very good. But we'll have to go and try that out. Next, what I want to do is use a time value. Make a nice time value. So let's go and store a few attributes. So here we'll do spline, and this will be an integer because I want to have the spline ID, or SID, right there, so that we can just portal that over to here. Just put that there, not have to worry about it anymore. Turn on grid snapping, so that's a bit better. Then here we'll have our time value, which will be float on the point domain. So this is what's going to run the entire animation. So when we have the time value, it goes up or down or whatever. Actually, should it just be a 0 to 1 value? Yeah, that's probably a good idea. We can actually go and plug that into there, set this to be a factor between 0 and 1. That, even with when we're outside, we can just do that, and that'll be our animation progression. This will be progression, just like that, and that is lovely. So let's go and get our time value, and now let's go and use a map range node, and we'll just go and try to dial it in. Now, we could try offsetting the time value randomly per spline, but I don't really think that's all too necessary just yet. But we'll see. We will see. So here we can see when the progression is full, it does that, but we want that to be the opposite on it, so that that's 0.1, and then when it's down, it's all like that. So all that'll happen, and then it'll scale down to there. But if we go and play this again, we can see that we need more of the swirls to happen. So I think I may have to switch from using regular noise. Again, if you're doing this in production, you just go and use, your 2D animators. You go say, hey, 2D animators, can I get some of your magic going on here? And then I'll just trace it with splines and do all that. Also, there's way too many splines, come to think of it. So here we'll do that, and then it shrinks down to be like that. but we also need to either offset the phase or change the scale. So we'll be dialing in a lot of this. This will take a while to just get the feeling right. No. I think we'll just have to offset the phase in order to make it work a bit better. Which means this might have to be... Yeah, we don't need this to be 4-dimensional noise. We just need it to be 2-dimensional noise. And we'll go use the spline parameter. We'll use the length and not the factor. And then we'll use a combine XYZ node. We'll connect this into here and whatever time offsets right here. So we'll have 2 dimensions of noise, and it'll be wonderful. So we have U, we can put that in there. Using a random value is okay. Even though I could just put in the spline ID into there. That would probably still be good. So let's not forget to use the multiply here so that we can set the apparent scale of all that. That is a bit annoying. Cyclic curves will have some issues. You can see that, we're getting some of that. I can't say I'm the biggest fan of that. We just need to go for the spirals. So let's get the curve tangents. And we can get the curve normal. And then we just need to affect those with the sine and cosine. So let's go and use a, or no, we need the normal and the binormal. So we need that and that. I'm not fully sold on this, but let's go and try it. We can always just delete it later. Let's go and get U, use a multiply. We want to make the nice swirls. So we need a sine and a cosine. Plug that into there and that into there. Use an add node so that we get these spirals that go boom, boom, boom. So if we go and multiply this, we should see that yes, we are getting the spirals in the wrong direction because I plugged that into the wrong. So here we have spirals, and they are huge, absolutely massive, way too big. Let's go and scale that down, and then plug that. Ooh, come on, buddy. You can do it. There we go. So we can do that, and then offset the phase randomly. Though, noise might just be prettier. A lot of this will just be fine-tuning. The actual math behind it, it's not bad at all. Okay. So let's go and offset the length using, no, we want to offset that after the scale, so let's go and do that, plug that into there. Whoop, oh, come on, buddy. Over there and there, put a nice little reroute there, put that into a frame. I am using Blender 4.5 just because I like it. Or should I work on the shaders before anything gets too hectic with this? Just make it look pretty and then I can dial in the motion. Maybe that's the way. Just maybe. We have all those spinning around, so we could get that spirally motion. But no, there's a lot of noise. I should just use noise, but I'll keep that in my back pocket just in case. We're just gonna use noise for that. Let's go and zoom back into here. Let's go and see how that works again. We have that, and then it does that. Not happy with that. Oh, because wait. I need to change the time value. So let's use the spline, or no, let's use the position for that. Separate the XYZ. Because what feels so wrong about this is that we need the animation to start from here, and then it progresses down the length of the sword. That's what was wrong. Okay, so this is the X direction, and we're just going to add that into there. So we may need a map range to make... Actually, let's do this. I might need to extend the factor, so that's a bit better, but we can already see we're getting something pretty good right there. Let's go and set that to be a -0.5. So do that, and then we can see that happens. So it's out there, and then it does that. Again, the evolution of the effect is still a little bit lackluster. These parts seem a little bit off. Everything just feels a tad wrong. But we can fix that, especially if we just go and turn on the scale a lot. Oh, come on. Wait a minute. What? Oh, okay. Why is that happening? Oh, because that's offsetting the time. Right, okay. So I need to keep that in check as well. So if we turn that off, everything should be kind of as expected. So I'll dial this in, and then we can make a little bit more evolution as time goes on. We have that, and then it can solidify to whatever level we want. Then I'm just going to use a map range so that, you know, what the user sees is just a 0 to 1 value, and then everything else is just, you know, animation not done, animation done, but in here we can specify how long that'll actually take. That, and then it does that. Okay. Well, I am a little bit annoyed that the time affects the noise a lot more than I was expecting. We can just use a multiply node, put that into there, so that'll affect it a bit less. We're at 16 minutes. I need to go a lot faster. But we're figuring this out. Don't be too pressured about it. Not happy with that part right there. If the spline is cyclic, then I can make it so that the other parts cycle. We don't want that, we don't want that. Like, the noise just doesn't look neat enough. How would we fix that? We fix it. Alright, well, okay. We got the most basic version of the effect there. Again, not great. Again, if you want to make it look like the movie, you hand animate it, because that's what they actually did in the movie. But with my procedural brain, it's like, oh, let's just try doing it this way, so that we can go and rewind it, do whatever we want, all that. Let's just have those in here. We can do that. Again, trying to keep it simple. Now let's go and change the curves to a mesh, and also maybe have a few particles. So let's use a curve to mesh UV, which this is a node group that I made, which is currently up on Gumroad because I have my little node group assets online for free. So check that out if you haven't already. But we can get the UV map, and also I can say that the length will be used for the UV map. So let's go and store this as just UV, because that's just standard. 2D vector on the face corner domain. We plug that in and we get all that. Let's go and use a set material node. Go and set the material. We'll just set it to be that. Set that to be U. So I think while this is rather... we might need to add in a resample curve node because I'm not happy with how the artifacts happen there. That fixes most of it, but we can always turn that up or down. Okay, so we have that. That works well. I might need to scale the curve radius a bit. Set curve radius. Let's go and do that. We just need to... yeah, I think that's good. Now, I could make it so that these always face the camera, but I think that's a little bit unnecessary at the moment. So let's go to the shader editor and make the shader actually look good. Let's go and use emission and a transparent mix between the two. Swap those. Yeah. I was like, wait, which one goes on top, which one goes on the bottom? But yeah, you want the transparency to be 0, the emission to be 1. So let's go and get our attributes. Get the UV, and as we can see, if we go and boot this up, let's also save the file. Oh. You there, buddy? Oh, wrong material. Here we go, let's go and get an attribute, make this UV. There we go, now we can see that's working. I'm gonna change the color management to be filmic, just because I like filmic. Even though, probably in the movie, they used aces, and technically, AGX is technically better when it comes to bright values and colors and all that, but I like filmic. Okay, let's go and use a noise texture, get the emission and the transparent out here again. That's translucent, transparent, BSDF. Put that into there. Now that we have this, let's go and take a... Oh, do I make it? I'll keep that on the back burner for now. Let's go and use a separate XYZ so that we can get all of this. Let's go and use a ping pong node so that the value in the middle ping pongs. We can go and use a map range, but we'll need to affect the map range using our noise. So just that, let's throw that into there. Multiply, turn off normalize, you know, basic vector math, so that we can multiply the dimension, set that to be 1, set that to be 0. We may need to change that a little bit. But with all this, we should see that now the noise is affecting all that. So we can dial that in and make it so that that affects all of that. And also make sure it's alpha blended, because dithering is the devil incarnate. Let's do that. Set that to be 0.5. And then I'll use my LG light fall off node, which in this case it's just, you know, this. Basically, actually, you need to remember, right? This, if you use divide by 0.001, it will give you a similar result, but just inverted, so the node group just uses logarithm for all that. Even though maybe I should just use divide. Anyway, this has gotten me through so many projects that just like, you know, just keep using it. Served me through the movie I worked on and all that, and it's just like, yep, you're good. Okay, so we can do that, but let's go and lessen how much the noise affects all of it. And then maybe we can turn that up like that. Maybe, oh, that seems to be a bit too much. I want it to be very dialed in. It's like that, but still has a bit of the sparkliness. Okay, that seems to be okay. That's set to be 100. Let's go and change that to be more of this value. Let's go and change the background to be 0. And then we can get to compositing. So let's go over to here and add in some bloom. I'm so glad you can search for bloom now. It's so nice. Go back into here, turn the compositing to be always. Now we have that being right there. Let's go back to here and see, okay, there's a lot more, okay. So it changes quite a bit. It looks like it's teal, and then it goes to deep blue, and then there's pink with the main, yeah, dashes of pink. Okay. So we can do something like that, and then we can use the noise and a color ramp to dial in all that. But let's go and make this just a little slightly more organized. Let's go and copy the attribute, put it into there, right into there. Oh, but it's not normalized. That. Let's try normalization because it could make things a little bit easier for me to work with. Do that, we'll bring that up, and then we'll just dial in. There we go, okay. We're getting there, see? We're getting there. And then we can use a color ramp. Since it's normalized, we can just dial this in a little bit better. Do I hue shift it, or do I not? So here we want the lighter parts to be lighter. Okay, we're getting there, see? We already got that part. Still very unhappy with how that looks. But we'll dial that in. Again, the shader is like 90% of everything that we're going to be doing here. And then we can use a hue shift with another noise to get the purpley parts. Yeah, that seems like a good idea. So we'll just copy you. We'll change you to be... I may want this to be 3 dimensions of noise, but I think that's fine. Let's go and use a separate XYZ so that we can get away with a 1-dimensional noise. Oh, no, bring you over here. Come on, buddy. And then we can use a map range, set it to be smoother step, not a color ramp because map ranges are just easier to dial in. Be perfect values and all that good stuff. Let's do that. So let's bring you in. Oh, wait. Here we have that. Turn the detail to be 0. Bring this up to here. The thing is, Oh, the UV map is not... Okay. The UV map is not randomized for each one, so that might be a little bit of an issue. I may need to... Actually, did I store the random? No. Let's go and store that. So when you're using splines, you should probably always store a random value per spline. We don't have that by default in the shader editor, I don't think. Yeah, no, because these are using actual meshes and not curves. So let's go and do that. So we have our time value. Let's go and store a spline value. Make it random, just like that. Change the C to be something like that, like this. Either S random or, no, I'll just name it random. It'll be fine. It'll be completely fine. And then we can use math and the attribute node. Let's go and put that there. I'm actually not capitalizing my variables here, so that... I'm learning. I'm finally learning. Let's add, multiply, put that into there, set this to be like 100. If you set it above like 1,000, you'll probably get float point precision errors, which I don't want to worry about. Let's... We can see that it's getting messy already. Use frames, everyone. Use them. I need to use them more often before... Like, usually when I create stuff, even in production, it's like, okay, let's do the messy pass, and then let's do the cleanliness. The clean pass, where we go and do all that. But it's better to make everything at least putting in frames beforehand so that you don't get lost within 5 seconds. There we go. Yeah, there we go. Now we have a little bit of that going on. Let me go and check our reference here. Uh-oh. Ah, there you are. So, we can see that the noise is doing that. Yeah. Okay. So I might just need to soften it up a little bit because this is just a tad harsh. The offset is a bit too much. Let's go and turn that to be like 1.5. And then dial in... Oh yeah, that's looking good. But we could turn up the roughness a bit more. Just to make it look more... Oh yeah, that is looking phenomenal. Not the shape, though. The shapes are atrocious. But the actual... those parts, pretty good. That's my seal of approval. Okay. So now that we have that, we now have our curves here. So now let's go and do a particle sim. So I'm like the very, very smart person I am. I am going to be making a particle sim almost from scratch, but let's use the velocity step because that's another node group I just have on hand to make making all this a bit simpler. Let's go and join geometry. Do I join it in before or after? It should be fine. We'll do that. We'll have some noise in the forces and maybe some gravity. But let's turn this into a node group. So node, make group. Let's go and put you into here. So this will be the curve. We'll do all that. Yeah. Let's use a sample curve node. And we'll make this all curves set to be factor because I'm going to make points that have the position. We'll make this random. We'll make this use the scene time frame for the seed. So this is just so that we can get points randomly along the curve. That'll do that. That's all fine and dandy. And then with that, I'll do that. We'll have this part be passed out. How many particles do we want per frame? I think we do yeah, let's do just a bajillion particles. Let's start with that. We can always dial it back later. Let's use an add node, a vector math, add node, a vector math, add node. There we go. Thank you. And we'll make this negative 9.81 meters per second. Negative 9.81 points. Okay. And then we'll have noise be put into here. We want that to be the color. Turn off that. We can just scale this. Again, this is in meters per second. There, we can turn on some damping, which I think we'll probably need, I don't know, maybe like 0.5, because that also uses delta time. We love a good delta time here or there. So here we should see if I actually hooked it up. That we get a ton of particles. Ton of particles just spawning in, doing all that. Let's make it so that they have a random radius. Let's go and add to the value so that we just make it not synced up between it all. We'll go and set this to be 0.01 to 0.0001. There we go. Now we have that. So now we have particles that can move around in space. Let's make the gravity quite a bit less. And then we can set a lifetime. I should have just used my pre-built particle setup because I absolutely love having to remake particle systems every 5 minutes. But I want it to be as simple as possible. As simple as possible, you know? Anyway, let's just go and store a life value that will go up depending on the delta time, which let me go and actually connect the delta time here and there. So those both go up. Maybe I shouldn't. No, maybe I should include that into there by default. Nah, that's just the velocity step. And we will delete the geometry if the life becomes greater than a certain value. So in this case, I will want to randomize it a little bit, but for here, I'm going to make it so that it'll last half a second. So here we should see that now they just die after half a second. Good, good, good. That is our life part-to-particle system, and if you're wondering what's inside of the velocity step thing, this is what it looks like. I was tired of doing delta time damping and all that stuff, delta time with all that, so I just made a node group just to make it a bit simpler, but it does make it a bit harder for, let's see, random points on curve. Oh. There we go. And right here, I want to set a unique ID for all of these guys. So I will use a hash value node. We will use the index for that value, and the seed will just be the frame. You need this so that every particle does not overlap with its neighbor and all that bad stuff happens. Particle. Go. I should make a node group for more of this, but it should be fine. Let's go and join the geometry. So what I could do is just have another material for the particles and just leave it like that, or I can instance a nice little sparkle on those particles and that should be okay. This will be ribbons. And then this will be sparkle. Let's go to the shader editor, we'll go over to here, and now we technically have, let's see, we can use the point info, do that, and we can make it, since we, oh yeah, we have the life value. Oh, but we don't have the death value, so I can't normalize. Maybe I'll just go and store the lifetime value. It's slightly annoying doing this. Let's get the life value so that these can actually fade out over time. You can see that. Let's use a map range. Just get that, so that's that, and actually wait. So that's 0.5, had it a bit, so that starts off like that, and does that, do that, plug it into there, call it a day. But we'll need those to be even smaller. Let's make sure that this is set to blended and not dithered, because remember, dithering is evil. At least, EV next dithering. It's very noisy. But again, it is just noise, it's not patterned dithering. Okay. Apologies if you hear a loud car. One is just passing by. It'll be gone soon, I'm sure of it. Okay, what else? Got the lifetime value, all that's fine. Oh right, I was going to change the radius to be even smaller, and we'll set the particles to be even more. Because I want a bajillion yes, that's looking better. Also, I forgot, turn off temporal reprojection. It's terrible, never use it. It probably has a use, but it's only in the viewport and it just makes watching animations worse. We have those. I could give these a random velocity to start out with, so that they go in random directions. I could do that, but it's probably fine. Hmm. Anyway, let me make these even smaller. Actually, let me go and take a look at the reference again. So we can see it just goes like that. Now, in the other sequence where the swords spawn, where the weapons spawn in, the particles are all throughout the animation, but this one has it only on at the end. Still looks good, and I'm assuming they're using some compositing for the stars there. But I like doing everything in camera, which is probably, again, a bad idea. Anyway, let's go and use the random point value, which we could have just stored with GeoNodes, but we have it by default in here, which is nice. So I will be using the LG Light Falloff node to go and manipulate this so that we can get the sparkles looking more sparkly. We can set this to be very high, and then we can set this to be more of that value. Do that. Like to do everything in camera bros like Christopher Nolan of Blender. And it's more, I think that's a result of Blender's compositor, at least in the past, being kind of lackluster. Like I could use the crypto mat to go and separate all of this and then apply it to there, but I do like all of this just being in there. Let's see. This looks sick. Are you working on another movie? No, 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 no. If I were working... Uh-oh. Oh, what's going on there? Okay. Oh, no, we actually need to... Okay. Set the ID value, which I thought would stabilize the random parts, but it's not. So what I'm just gonna do is I'm going to store an actual random value like this, and since the ID is stabilized, this will be our stable random value. Let's go and use random. If I were working on another film, you all would not know about it. You would not know about it. And just for clarity, I did not work on this movie. I wish I did though, because it's very good. Let's see, so we have that. All those seem to be stable, but we could push it even further. Though I think we need to map range. A bit of this, and we'll just go and bring up the low value. Come on. There we go, okay. Just a little smoother step, and now it looks all sparkly and lovely. Look at that. But I do think I'll have to close off the ends here, because... yeah. I don't like that. Even, well, no, in the movie, the parts do get separated. But I can't say I'm the biggest fan of... I'm just not a fan of how the noise makes that look. So I need to make something better. I need to make something better. That'll be the most difficult part. And then for the actual sword, like the actual model here. Oh, look at that. Let's go and unhide the sword. Let's see. So let me go over to here, check this out. So the sword is, okay. I haven't looked much into the sword, but yeah, we can see it just has a glowing handle there with some constellations inside of the design. And then there's a generic handle. So here I'm going to be very, very cheeky and just go and assign emission and just make this, yeah, that'll do it. Just go and make it a bit brighter. Perfect, almost. Fine, and then for this one, it'll just be metallic. And there we go. Maybe throw in a solidify. I am going to be spending like 2 minutes on this. Yeah. Like again, I just want this part to exist, and then this part that part's fine. But even so, I like, this is looking pretty good already. I just need to hone in the noise right there. So again, I could do the rotation part right there, and that could be nice. Although, what if I were to, here, let's see if this will work. one dimension of noise, and we're going to use you and you. Let's go over to here, delete that, add that to, come on, buddy. Go. Yeah, I'm just gonna forego that. Make it so that these are guaranteed a different distance away. Go. So we have that, but I'm only going to take the factor here and then rotate this. Or I'll... Take the normal, rotate it along the tangents, and then scale it based on the noise. That might work. So let's use a rotate, vector rotate node, use axis angle, put that into the axis, and then the angle will just be you. So we can get that kind of spirally motion, I hope, but we'll see. Here, we'll just, into the, ooh! That is intriguing. I don't know why it's... Oh, no, wait. I know why it's bugging out. Okay, you can see what I'm going for. Though... If I used the offset... We're getting that nice spiraling motion. I can make it so that the phase is offset so that we get this very nice harmonic look, which I guess could go in theme with the movie a little bit. You know, it's all about music and all that fun stuff. Maybe. Oh, I do kind of like that though. An idea of harmonics like that. Wait a minute. Like, okay, where's the sine? It turns out that this looks like a sine wave, just because it is spiraling around the center. And, oh, look at that. That looks amazing. Some of my best work is just glowy stuff. There's an entire point in my resume that could just be, hey, I make good glowy stuff. And if we turn... no. Let's use the factor instead. And we can fix it. We can definitely fix it. Okay. So... Oh, okay. Let's go and scale that. So we want the maximum to be like that. Oh, I do love the harmonic look of that. Even though it's not like that in the movie, I think I might keep this harmonic look, because it looks really freaking cool. Alright. Let's go and use... I could use the spline length. That. Like that, and then when it settles, I also need to make it so that it fades out. So here it would be very faded out, and then there it would actually show for a bit, and then do that, and then fade out. Okay. I do like it would be... It would really mess with the, it would make it inaccurate. But it fits the theme. It does fit the theme. Okay. Anyway, let's go and just animate the progression so that I can... Should have done this before from the start, so we can just have that. We can see that happening. It needs to be a lot faster than that. Be like that, but I need the animation to also evolve. So yeah, this will take the longest time. We're at 44 minutes. Oh no! I haven't even, like, really started on all of it yet. Let's use a random value for this because the other party's not doing what I move you over to here. That multiplies. Okay, so no rotation is happening. Maybe I could use the curve radius, which I can assign to make it look a bit better or worse. Or, to change the default size of all this. Why is this happening? Is there just... There is enough resolution. Float? What is wrong with... Is that just like float? Point visionary? Like what's this? Why is it all crunched? Should not occur like that. Okay, anyway. Let's go back to here and we'll be using the time value to... Oh wait, we need to go to the ribbons. Is that... Okay. Let's use the time value to determine the opacity. So we'll use the time value, and this should be a 0 to 1 range. Or actually, no, it won't be. Let's use a color ramp, because it needs to go from 0 alpha to 1 alpha, and then back to 0, because it does need to fade away. We can plug that into the multiply. Just be really cheeky about it. Bring this down, so it would be like that. Okay. Oh, wait, wait. Oh, how about that? Okay. Okay. Something is working here. But I think I should probably store the UV parts before the deformation happens. I like that look. I'm not happy with the ribbon part. Although, could just manually twist it. I could. And then on the geometry node side, we can make it so that the rest value is not 0. Oh, yeah, 1.2. Just enough so that it doesn't look... So that it does settle, but it does that. Maybe I should have it so that the harmonics are moving according to the time. Or maybe they're just always moving. Could do that very, very easily. Let's put you and you right here. We need the true normal because there is no true normal on these curves. Oh, I need a sneeze. 1 second, everyone. Never mind, the sneeze went away. Let's get the scene time node. Let's go and use a nice little multiply. Oh, we have 43 people here. Hello. Not expecting so many. So the parts that we need to fix are the parts that loop, because apparently something just stupid is happening over there, for lack of a better term. Then right here. So for the particles spawning, we can use the same time value to delete that. So here, with this, since we're already using a sample curve node, we can go and use the named attribute time, just go and sample that as well. And then we can use that for the curves to delete themselves. Delete geometry. This will be a random value, and the probability will be determined by time, though we'll be using that color ramp. Even though I should probably... That's fine. It's fine. Just need to make that like that and that. Set it to be like that. So we should see. Okay. The center part should be black. The outer part should be white because that's the probability of the deletion happening. Here I'll be nothing, and there I'll be something. Okay. You can see that stuff is happening. All that's going well. Let's go and dial in the start so that the whole thing is actually... Wow. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. It's working! Lovely. You love to see it. Go and save this, because I haven't saved it in a while. So now all I need to do... Yeah, okay, so the speed of it going through, I'm okay with. What I'm not okay with is, you know, this shape. I do not know why. We're getting some weird quirks happening with that. That should not be happening. But the overall harmonics look. We do need to make the harmonics actually move. Okay, I'm okay with that. Maybe make it like that so that... then moving down... Okay. I'm actually almost okay with that. Almost. I do want to try making the spline cyclic, which I just did. I'm not sure that was a good idea. No, it does make that happen. Oh, but maybe that could work. You know, like the main effect is there. And we're still under an hour, so... Okay, so not bad for an hour. Though, again, still feeling a little bit iffy about this. It's pretty neat. Not as good as your pine cone animation, though. Yeah, that took a bit longer. But also, I do enjoy, you know, just regular old manual animation. Some of my fondest projects are just manually animated, like that golden bird that I made a long time ago, the pine cone. I like those. Like, the procedural stuff is still amazing. That is, well, that's why I got to work on Sonic. But, you know, stuff that's a bit more manual, I do like. With this, it's like making math do what I want. While with animation, it's like, oh, I get to determine everything. And I don't need to worry about math at all, basically. It's like almost there, but it needs more. Oh, wait. Could try that, but that might be a bad idea. Okay. So maybe I just need to put in more node groups. So this part, I'll make this into a node group node, make group, just so that we can shrink this down by a lot. This will be curve displacement. And there with the particles, I could, yeah, let's just put everything that we can inside the node groups so that, you know, it's just more convenient. Go and Control X, delete that, and then here I could put all this into a node group, but I think that's a little bit unnecessary. And then for the start data, let's just put that into a frame, put this into a frame. Yeah, I think that's good. So there's one other method I can try. Because right now this is passable, but I think I would need to come back to this at a later date when my eyes are fresh, or to make it look even better. Because here, I'm liking the twist. I am liking that. Let's see. I'm liking the spiral look and all that, but there's just a few things like that I'm not happy with. I could go and just smooth the curve in post. That might be a good or a really bad idea. Oh, let's give it a shot. Let's go and get the position. Then use a blur attribute node, put it right in there. So we can see it just blurs it out a little bit. Gets rid of any... Oh, wait. Oh, maybe that's all we needed. Just a little blur to just even out all the sharp stuff. Maybe that's all that was needed. Even though... maybe like 1 or 2. Yeah. I still am not the fondest of that. Maybe, I could do that to do that, which does look good, but it does make the harmonics a bit more noisy. I do love it though. I do love it. Like, look at that. That looks amazing. Again, not as good as the actual film because, again, this was hand-drawn. Just straight up fully hand-drawn. But for a little replication of that, I would say not bad. The hues are still a bit off, like theirs was a lot more... Here, let's go to the shader editor. Theirs was a lot more... maybe it was just more random per spline. Because right now, it's just like that, while mine, maybe... Maybe I should plug this into the actual hue instead of that. So it'll be 0.5 or that. Should look exactly the same, but now I can override it whenever I feel like it. This one, I could make it so that some of them have a bit of a hue shift towards those, and I could use the random value map range to determine that. Have you returned fully to Blender again? Are we going to get more Touch Designer streams soon? Unfortunately, Touch Designer does not do nearly as well in terms of just people watching, so I've been mainly just doing that on my own time. Ooh! This is gonna spark so many more ideas. But I still use Touch Designer. I still love it. It's still really good. Maybe I should tone down a bit of this. Okay. Curve is smoothened. Set curve type. Oh no, that's spline type. Spline type. We can set this to be NURBS. We can see that that smoothens out everything else. Just so that's a little bit easy. Oh wait. Okay, I could just use that for like a last pass. All that. But yeah, do love Touch Designer. It is very nice. It feels like how I've been wanting geometry nodes to be. I say that in a complimentary way to geometry nodes as well. But again, Touch Designer is, made from the ground up to be procedural, while geometry nodes is trying to make Blender more procedural. But just like the ability to take just data, mix it up, convert it from this to that, convert a mesh into a waveform and all that, just the ability of changing data is so nice. Yeah, I love the channel operators and all that. It's so nice. Now, there are some hangups, like doing buffers and all that can be a little bit annoying with GLSL. Using tops because, you only have 4 channels per thing and all that. Now, the particle operators, which are apparently in the alpha, will make that a bit better, but I'm a bit hesitant to use the beta of a program that has been the same for so long. Not dissing it, just it still has a few little quirks to it. But for the most part, it has been a phenomenal journey. I've never clicked with a program since, well, Blender and GeoNodes. Like Houdini, well, I still love Houdini. It's still the best. I've used it professionally and a little bit personally. I just like GeoNodes because it's faster. But Touch Designer was a lot easier to get into. A lot easier. Okay, I need to set a random velocity and then maybe make it so that gravity is a bit more. Because with these particles, they spawn throughout the entire system, not just the, still fine. No, I think that's okay. Though, maybe I just scale this up even more. Wait, even more? Really? You need more? Maybe the scale needs to go down. Okay, that seems to be fine. And then the only other things we would need to do is to make this work in global space, which, if you saw my little mini tutorial about that, global space should be quite easy to do. Let's go and move you and you over to here. So yeah, with a simple particle system and all that, that works out just fine. I do want to make it so that the sword can actually move in 3D space and the particles will trail and all that. But I want it so that this part, the ribbons, don't have to do that. Yeah. And then for the actual sword, right here, it's like, yeah, what are we gonna do? Oh, whoa, that is a high poly curve. A lot more high poly than I was hoping. Oh, that's, yeah, but you say set spline resolution. Mix that up nicely. There. So here I can just go and tone this down by a bit, just so that we can get like maybe a couple more subdivisions without it going absolutely nuts. Just for a little more resolution. Into there, so just do. And then we just make the sword fade in, and all that is lovely. What happens with motion blur? Because with motion blur, it won't work on this because it's alpha blended. Though, if I were to render this, and we are past an hour, so I think I'll have to wrap this up. Now with the sword, you know, I don't really care about it all too much. Maybe I'll try making an actual sword and all that fun stuff. But, was never really the main, feature of this. Actually seems, if I remember correctly, the hilt is a lot smaller. Then with that part, maybe we can just go and scale that so it's a bit more like that. Though the sword is one of the, I think they intentionally made it like one of the most subdued weapon designs. Because, well, spoilers, she gets a much better looking sword later on. We have that, so I could do a bit, oh wait, oh, whoa. There's more than one thread per thread. There's more than one thread per thread. Wait. Or is that just compositing? I don't know. There might be more threads per thread. Let's let that play. I think also the handle is a bit too long for all that. Just go and move that in a bit. And we can go and move you in a bit. But yeah, and with this setup, you know, if you were going to do it with 2D animation, like, well, obviously you probably should if you have a 2D animator on hand, because again, that's what they did in the movie. You could just transfer the particles and the shader here to that, and then it would work just fine. Here, I think I'm also just going to tone down the light blue. Only want it to be there a little bit. Let's see. Can you do a side-by-side comparison just to see the animation? Love your work. Let's see. Yeah, how easily could I do a side-by-side? Oh, wait, but let's just try to get both of them in frame. It's gonna look very... Oh, also because the animation speed is slowed down. Let me go and speed that up. Let's set it to be how fast it is in the movie. So it's like that, and then that happens. Again, because it's 2D drawn, the style it has changes every time they do it. So sometimes it's this very squiggly part right there. Sometimes it's a lot more arc-y, all that. Particles here and there. While I would like to make it like one-to-one, I think it's better if I just put my own little spin on it. Again, I love the harmonic look of it, even though since now it's going both ways, it kind of freaks out a little bit. Some of it's going down, some of it's going up. But I like the loops. I like the loops there at the end. Yeah. Maybe I can determine which way. Oh yeah, I know. I can just use the tangent to reverse which way those parts are going. That might be a good idea, might be a bad idea. Not entirely sure. Let's go and put this into a frame. I should label all of these, which this is, again, just a 1-hour project. So I probably won't be doing all too much else with it. Let's go and put you over to here. Again, just using these for portals. Actually, someone was asking me a little while, like a day or two ago, does Blender have the select option from Touch Designer, or the select node? While I really wish it did, because that would be amazing, the select node is basically where you can have, like, the portal idea that they were thinking of a while back. You can just have a node, like a reroute, but just, it references something like that, or like a node group, and then it just outputs. While that would be very nice to have in Blender, you just have a reroute or just a little node, and then you have it reference a data block, kind of like the store named attribute and named attribute nodes. It's, you know, we don't have that. Or you wouldn't even need the stored, you would just need like a named attribute node, put in like the socket data block, and then you're good. Yeah, I'm good with how the effect looks for now. It could be better. It could be better. But it's alright. We just need to change. Like, look at that. That looks so good. I could. Wait. Let's try Operation Bajillion Particles. So let's up the particle count to be 500. No. 1,000 per frame. And then set the radius to be 0.05. I am somewhat disappointed. So that to be a bit less, so that they actually... Dang. It's actually, that would be better. Is it still freaking out? No, I don't think it's freaking out, just maybe they're just a bit too small and they're not picking up correctly. Alright. Well, anyway, let's go Control Z until it's not a bajillion. No. Let's do 10,000 particles. And, oh, you get to see the little after images. Okay. But yeah, I think we were good the way it was. Just a few particles, just enough to make it pretty good. Maybe set that to be about 5. Just enough to get the sparklies going. I'm cool with that. Even though in the movie, like, these ones are a bit faded out. I do like these. Okay, anything else? In comp, let's go to comp. Let's go and use some of the streaks, set this to be 45. Maybe use some color modulation, because we love that. Strength, let's go and turn that down. Where's the fade? Yeah, we want it to be faded a bit. Just tone it down so that we can get just a little bit of it. Let's turn it to high quality, so that we just get a little bit of the sparklies going. Fully turn up the color modulation, just to give the illusion of, it's a bit subtle. We can go and turn it up a bit more. I think that's good enough. I think this project is basically ready to go. Again, the motion of the parts there could still use some work, but for the moment, I think we're good. What are your specs? They must be pretty good since you can get... Oh, I only had 1,000 particles per frame, not 10,000. Or did I put in 10,000? I think it was only 1,000. But I have an Intel i5 something generation processor. Definitely not great. And an RTX 3060 graphics card, which geometry nodes only uses the CPU, not the GPU. So whenever geometry nodes lags, it's simply because my CPU is not good enough. Though it is nice with Touch Designer, I get to actually use the GPU for particle sims, which is nice. Then there's all of that, which is pretty cool. So yeah, that's basically it. Again, this is it from the movie. Again, mine is fairly different, using a procedural approach rather than 2D animation, but, you know, it's good. Let's go and bring over, let's have another camera so that we can actually go and render the, oh no. There we go. Just bring it right over to here. That, and then do. And then I just need a nice looking background. If I were cheeky, I could go and get some concept art from the movie for the background, but I don't think I'll do that. I think I'll just put in a few little sparkles and stuff like that. And then I would just put in like a glowing sword there, and that would be fine. And yeah, I do want to see how motion blur works with all of it. Okay. Not the biggest fan of the motion blur. Even though that could potentially look really cool, I think the movie doesn't have motion blur on that. The movie does have motion blur in some cases, but usually not. And not on, you know, the sparkles and all that. So let's go and render it with 20 of those. Oh, it does look good though. Okay, I might try it. There we go. We have that, and we can see the comp is working phenomenally. Even though I think it, wait, is it using the GPU? It is. Dang it. Yeah, that could look really good. Motion blur might make it look better. Not sure though. Actually, let me do a nice little render right now. Okay. So the effect is done. Let's do a quick little render. Ask all your questions now while the render is happening. Let's see. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. Hold up, that was hand-drawn. What about the lighting and all that? What movie is it, by the way? It seems like it's familiar, but I can't remember exactly. The movie is K-Pop Demon Hunters on Netflix. It came out like maybe 3 weeks ago. And it's really good. It's really, really good. It might be my favorite film of the year. It's either that or Sinners, which those two are on very tonally separate sides of the movie spectrum. One is very gritty, graphic, and all that, but both of them do use music quite a bit as like their core theme. So I guess, yeah, I guess that's interesting. Maybe I just like movies with music as one of their core elements. But yeah, really good. But the from what I saw on from one of the people who worked on the film, because there's a lot of them that have been talking about like what they did here, what they did there, amazing lighting artists, amazing effects artists. But here, they said that they started out with 2D sketches to just get the motion, and then 3D for like the particles and other effects. So I'm assuming that they traced the sketch with splines, maybe per frame. Or maybe, who knows, maybe they used, I know for Spider-Verse, I think they used grease pencil a little bit, which means Spider-Verse did use Blender a little bit, which maybe they used Blender a little bit for this, I don't know. But maybe they traced over it with splines, and then they did all of the cool effects after that. And maybe it's all 2D, who knows, maybe all this is just in comp. And then the particles might be done in 3D. Not sure. The particles, I'd imagine, are done in 3D. I'd imagine. And as we can see here, just the 2D graphic of, Oh, that is interesting. Did they just flipped the scale from one side to the other, and then did, oh, that's cool. And then a couple of other sparklies right there. It seems like it's mostly a 2D, maybe, yeah, maybe they didn't even go and turn it into a spline. Who knows? Because actually, the more I look at it, maybe it was all hand-drawn. I think I just assumed that they used splines at one point, like after the 2D animation guide, because the Hunmoon is 3D as far as I know, which this effect is based off of, I think. How about that? Who knows, maybe even grease pencil to geonodes? From what okay, I could be very wrong about this, but I remember in like a talk about Spider-Verse, they said that Blender or grease pencil was used, or it was either grease pencil was used and they converted that to curves or vice versa. I'm forgetting, but they found it useful, but I have no confirmation whatsoever if Blender was used at all on this movie. I would assume that, you know, most of the effects were done in Houdini, animation done in Maya, and then rendered in probably Maya? Would assume. I don't know if Sony has like an in-house renderer or anything like that. But yeah. So that is pretty much everything. Let me go and switch this to be 1024 by 1024 so that I can post on social media. Maybe I can try out different shapes. Let's go and turn the camera in this camera so that we can get more of this in frame. Bit of this, just so that we can get all of it in there, so that we can see all of the magic. And I still didn't do like the sword fade in, but that is honestly the easiest part of this entire ordeal. Because, oh, I need to make this, let's try a Voronoi. Let me just try something real quick. I'm extending the time that this is, yeah, but that's okay. Color ramp. Let's use the LG light fall off, put you into the strength. Do that, maybe do this. Could make it look really, really cool, but would be inaccurate to the film. But hey, that actually looks quite cool. Let's do a little bit of that. Texture is stretched, but it's fine. Could do that to like make it even more Maybe an almost smoky interior. I think that's fine. Just a few little highlights to do that. Maybe change the... Oh, it's not using the UV map. Whoopsie. Maybe like that, and then I could just stretch the UV by bits. Let's see. Let's do that. Go back into the GeoNode section, scaled up by a bit. So I could use that for like the sword handle, maybe fade it as it goes down to the hilt. We change the coloring because it's a little bit desaturated. Really push all the colors. So in the movie, the sword has like an almost constellation pattern on the inside. But I think I'm just gonna either go with this or just make it so that it fades into nothingness. And there, it is a shame that none of the colors are showing through. Let's throw in a solidify and then a subdivision. Really lean into that. Oh, I made this in an hour. Looks like a popsicle. Let's go and make it not look like a popsicle. Square off the end. Maybe make this a bit more harsh. Maybe a bit more pointy. Like that. It's gonna... Oh, okay, that's why. Just turn off use creases. Oh yeah, I could just hone it in manually. Still looks like a popsicle. There we go, that's a bit better. A bit. And then why is nothing oh right. Ray tracing is off. If I... Right, I hit that. I hope that the lighting will show up on the hilt a little bit. Please. Nothing. What a shame. Let me hide this again. I can actually make this look a bit, actually, be like that, right? And then that should be that. More like that. Then the creases don't mean anything, and then we have that, which is very, very nice. Let's see. Maybe I should turn the sword blue to match with all that. Again, going very off script, but maybe I just need to add in more colors. Actually, that looks pretty nice. Even though it doesn't look sharp anymore. Doesn't look sharp. The proportion, that is... I'll need to hone that in, but, you know. Let's go and bring you down a little bit more. Okay, it could work. Just need to scale it up a bit more. That's the main issue. I'll read the chat again, because I do need to wrap up the stream. Maybe this texture is just not the way to go. Okay, I'll fix that all up later. Nope, back to the sword over here. There we go. Okay, let's read the chat. Wonder if Unreal can become the standard for rendering movies, since a lot of stuff coming out being rendered in Unreal? Uh, I mean, maybe. But movies have very interesting pipelines when it comes to rendering. The amount of stuff that's needed would probably overwhelm Unreal, because for those of you who don't know, like, you know, movies usually, render farms usually run on the CPU. Wait, I think I'm right about that. Yeah. I would actually need to double check on that. But for some big productions, the CPU is used just because it's much more scalable than GPUs. Yeah. But with the scale that movies need to render at, I think they would run out of VRAM very quickly. Have you worked with other composition tools outside of Blender, Fusion, Nuke? And if which one is the best in your opinion? Do you even need composition outside of Blender in small/personal projects? Okay, if you're using personal projects, Blender's basically all you need. And maybe DaVinci, Resolve, Fusion. Wait, Fusion is in Resolve, yeah. But yeah, you use the free stuff is more than enough than you need for just personal work. Now, I've used Nuke a little bit professionally. I would not say I know Nuke. It's the industry standard for a reason. The downside is it is like hella expensive. It's so expensive, stupidly expensive. So it is not a viable option for hobbyists. You use Nuke if you are in the industry. Yeah, if you're to use Nuke, your company would have to pay for it. Yeah. Well, depends. Like, for my personal stuff, I usually barely do any compositing. Because I just like doing everything in camera, like doing everything in Blender. Where it's like, if I were doing this in a professional environment, I would be exporting multi-layer EXRs with all the layers, maybe with a crypto mat and all that. It would probably be composited in Nuke, or maybe DaVinci Resolve. But, yeah. If you want to do just funny little personal projects, just use Blender. If you want to do stuff that's a bit more advanced with, like, EXRs and proper color grading, use DaVinci. Oh wait, did I accidentally say use Nuke? I meant use DaVinci. And then if your company is paying for it and the pipeline requires Nuke, use Nuke. Yeah. Alright, so I guess for the last time, thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. I think I read all the comments. Yes, I did. And I'll see you all next time. Have a good one.